Bonjour, Mr. French person, or Mrs. French person. Taranaki, New Zealand, just been for a swim. A little fear thought come up. I haven't had one for a while. I was swimming in the murky water, which it is on the west coast of New Zealand there, because of the deforestation and stuff. And a rock touched me and the kelp wrapped around my leg, and a little fear thought come up. I was chased by a great white shark once, and it got so close, the weight from it knocked me off my board like a washing machine, so just a little bit scary. And the fear thought came up. I recognised it, remembered it, but the beautiful thing was there was no emotion, there was nothing stirred, so bit by bit as I'm honouring it, recognising it, deleting it, so there's been the disconnect between the thought, the fear, the emotion, and the chemical release of adrenaline. And so yeah, it's very rapidly dropping away. Oh shit, there's some sandflies. Ooh. Get a few of them in New Zealand. Never mind, if that's the biggest of my worries. So yeah, the connection's lost between this and the emotion and the chemical release, and I got to think about when I was diagnosed as bipolar. They said it's just a chemical imbalance, and yeah, all that. I think I've talked about it before, but they say it's a chemical imbalance, and so they try and fix a chemical imbalance by adding more chemicals, which in my experience and many others I've spoken to, it just throws it totally out of kilter. So I realised a long time ago it's not the chemical imbalance you need to work on, it's an imbalance of the mind, the thought imbalance. Without a balance, the fear thoughts trigger emotions which trigger chemicals. So instead of trying to fix the chemicals, which you can't because they can't test it, and it's set about checking the thoughts and delete the negative, delete again. It seems to be a recurring theme. So yeah, I talked about it in my last blog, so enough of that. So I went for a swim. There were some families and kids around, so obviously I put on in Fiji they call it a sulu, because yeah, they don't like the naked form here, and that's all right, that's their gig, so I'm in their world, so that's how I operate. I've learned that one. And so yeah, in Fiji they call it the sulu, the sarong thing, Zulu for Tonga, Sulu from Tonga. And they have Sulu for Tonga, Sulu with pockets, which they wear for churches in the Christian thing. And it just thinking then, I went to some villages there, asked me to take a tour the tourists into a church service. That was in November, and mango season. Oh, you got to try the mangoes. Bloody sandflies. Sorry, waffling about. Can do that sometimes. So yeah, they asked me to take the tourists into the church, and I led them in through the back door and sat them at the back. And the villagers were a bit surprised because normally the white people sit up the front, because